Here's a 2000 point orc army I've just finished painting for Warhammer 40,000. Let's have a look at some details up close. Here is a couple of squads of Storm Boys. These are orcs with jump packs. They are made from, I think, the 2nd edition plastic orcs from Blood Bowl. I added some weapons to the hand, guns, axes, swords and stuff. And the jump packs themselves, very rough and ready, they are made from tiny little dice and beads. And yeah, I had lots of the dice lying around, and these beads are very cheap to buy on eBay. You get 50 for a couple of quid. At this point I shall apologise for the remnants of glue and paint on my fingers. That's how recently this army was finished. I had a first game with it today. What else have we got? Down the front here, unit of Gretchens. You may recognise these Gretchens from Space Crusade, and you might recognise the Runt Herd from Space Crusade as well. I've swapped his, I think his gun I've swapped to the other hand, and I've given him a cudgel made from a cocktail stick. Behind them, some knobs. There we are. You can tell they're knobs because they've got back banners. That's how I distinguish my knobs from boys. But the bodies themselves, they're made from the really old 2nd edition plastic orcs. And to give them a bit more battlefield presence, as well as the banners, I've given them the slightly larger bases and built them up with cork, so that they take up just a bit more space and look a bit more stately. The banners I made from, so do you remember they used to use this sort of weird papery stuff for the patch on the back of a pair of Levi's jeans? Well, I once got a notebook cover that was entirely made from that stuff, and I've been cutting out banners from it ever since, because you can crumple it right up, you can screw it up, and it retains these nice characterful creases which you can dry brush, and I kind of think it looks like sort of leather or rawhide or something, the sort of thing that orcs might use as back banners. And yeah, I think it sort of is effective, very quick to paint, as you can see. Next, this is one of my Death Dreads. This is, I've no idea what this model is actually. No idea where it's from. Some odd sort of white resin kit. Maybe I got it in an eBay lot, I'm not sure. But I've given it a bit of rust and grime, and you can see poking out the front there, little orky face. Here's another Death Dread. I mean, everybody, I think, of a certain age will recognise this model. The 2nd edition Orc Dreadnought. And there's a little orky hand chucking a stick bomb. Actually, just before we have a look at him, hiding behind that banner was my weird boy. My sort of orc shaman, right? Casts spells and his head explodes from time to time. So, he is made from a few different models. His legs are the 2nd edition plastic orcs from the starter box. His torso and arms, they're from the sort of evil sorcerer type dude from Hero Quest, complete with rubber gloves. And the head is from that 1980s orcs, Space Orcs kit, plastic, with the great big hair squig. I curled his fingers around an old, it's the shaft of a skeleton spear, and then the top of it is just the symbol, like a skeleton spear symbol. Nice and simple. Down the front here, well, we're here, the man himself, Gazgul Mag Uruk Thraka, the 2nd edition model. And He's really too small to be using in the modern game, to be quite honest. But I have put him on a bigger base. I've built up his base. I count the entirety of his banner and his banner pole as part of his model for targeting purposes. But he's such a beautiful model, I have to include him. I have got the proper Makari somewhere. I've no idea where he's gone. So I painted up a Warhammer Fantasy goblin, changed the spear out for a great long length of metal rod, and just gave him this weird, huge banner. I like it. The clan symbol here is supposed to be a swearing hand, right? Doing the traditional two-fingered British swear. I think a lot of people do look at it and assume it's a peace symbol. I think either way I don't really mind, because I can imagine a peace symbol being used ironically by sardonic orcs. That seems fine. Gaz has got a little bodyguard, a couple of mega knobs here and mega armor. I'm sure I'm not the first person in history to convert old Space Hulk Terminators to mega armor. He's got the face of a HeroQuest orc there. And this is one of my favourite models. It was very quick to do. It's a very quick and rough paint job and conversion, but I like it. He looks delighted with his looted Terminator armor, and well, he should be. Then we've got a big mech with a shock attack gun. The figure here I bought on eBay for not very much at all, because the front of the shock attack gun was missing, the whirly bit. So I made my own whirly bit. Hugely oversized, but that's fine. It's orcs. You can do that sort of thing. Very rough and ready again. I used some beads, and I probably drilled in some bits of cocktail stick. And that works. You can certainly see at a glance what it's meant to be. Down the front, here we are, some more Gretchen. Again, I've used the Space Crusade Orc as my runt herd. I'll give him a cudgel in one hand, and there he is, shouting orders at his frightened retinue. And these Gretchens, lots of you will recognise these. These are the very nice little plastic ones from the 2nd edition starter box. Over here we've got my one and only unit so far of regular boys. I think I will need some more boys, to be honest. But most of these are made from the late 80s plastic orc kit, Space Orcs, when they were still called Space Orcs. Lots of you will recognise those. Whoops. Very distinctive hair squigs, stick bombs, quilted armour. Lovely stuff. But a couple of these are made from HeroQuest Orcs. Little weapon swap, shoulder pad, and suddenly he's a Space Orc. I absolutely love this particular face sculpt. I think that's fantastic. Really characterful. Lovely to paint. And this great big plasma weapon is fantastic. What a beautiful piece of sculpture. It's so lovely. So behind those, I've got a gun, a mech gun. This is a bubble chucker, and it's made from all sorts of bits and pieces. A few years ago, I bought a lot of scratch-built orc guns that somebody put together from plumbing parts and bits of metal and stuff. And so this is one of the things I sort of converted from those conversions. And it's got Orky wheels. I think these are armour plates from the old battle wagon. It's got the barrel from an old Lehman Russ tank, I think. And then various bits of plastic and beads and wire and stuff to make it look faintly electrical and weird, like something strange is going to happen. And this sort of round bauble on the back just communicates the idea of a bubble chucker, I think. Maybe that's where the bubble forms. Okay, so next to those we've got a couple of vehicles. These serve in my army as rucker truck squig buggies. So they're these buggies that dash around, and their main ranged weapon is a squig lobber or chucker or something. This throws a squig across the battlefield in a high arc. They've got indirect fire, so it's a great big high parabola. So I imagine it like being like a mortar. So I got a couple of these models from this brilliant company called Ironclad Miniatures, and they've got a range of resin steam tank. It's a resin steampunk steam tanks in all different sizes. I've used them lots of times for all sorts of different games and armies. And I had a couple of those, and I removed the cupolas from them and the guns, and then made these sort of weird squig mortar type things. So this bit here you may recognize as the thing that holds the door in Hero Quest. And the mortar itself, I got a weird sort of stacking game from a charity shop. It had a couple of dozen of little plastic, sort of Action Man sized plastic wine glasses, or goblets, and you're just supposed to stack them up. And I've used those for all sorts of things, actually. They'll be cropping up again in this army. But yeah, they were perfect for this. And so I made the squig heads just from Milliput and carved those in and painted them up. And I really like them. They're nice. They're good. I like those. Again, from Ironclad Miniatures, I got the main part of this great beast. I'm going to have to adjust myself here a bit, aren't I think, to fit this in. Right, here we are. So, this is one of my battle wagons. It's got a grabby claw on it. So, yeah, the main body of it is one of the larger of the Ironclad steam tanks. And so I added to it these guns. These are from some old plastic tank kit. The claw on the front. Now, if you remember a film from the 90s called Wild Wild West with Will Smith, he played, no, who was it? Was it Kenneth Branagh, actually, who played some weird character with mechanical spider legs? Anyway, I found an action figure of him in a charity shop, and I used a couple of the legs to make this grabby claw. This tower on the back, I'm not sure where the roof is from, some plastic kid's toy. And then the actual tower itself, I think, is a salt pot, maybe a pepper pot. And the gun on it, some of you of a certain vintage may recognise that as Modulok's gun from Masters of the Universe action figure. And then I put on another Blood Bowl orc, just standing on there, to sort of give it a bit of life, I think. Lots of rust. One of my favourite paints to use during this project is Typhus Corrosion, which is a Citadel paint. It's an effects paint, I think. It's just this sort of inky brown slop goes on. It's got a very fine grit in it as well. So it looks like mud and filth, but you can dry brush it a little bit and it looks just enough like corrosion and rust. It's great stuff, really nice. Let's put that back. And I'll show you my other battle wagon. There we are. So some of you will think that this is an armour cast oh gosh, what was it? I can't remember what the vehicle was called. One of those anyway. It's not an armor cast one. This is a fan sculpt. I bought it through Facebook a few years ago. Some guy made a few of them, clearly inspired by the armor cast ones from the 90s. But yeah, it's just, as you can see, it's made from resin. Some guy called something Nash, Sam Nash maybe. I'm not sure if he still makes them or not. But he would make the master from plasticard, proper old-fashioned model making, and then make resin molds from it and cast up a few. And I bought one. I think it's fantastic. A really lovely model. It's a little bit small, I suppose, really, to be a battle wagon in a modern orc army, but I give it the upgrade that for the really fierce gun, and that decreases its carrying capacity from, I think, 22 to 12 figures. So I think that's okay. That's acceptable. I don't care much about sizes in 40k for the sort of games I'm playing. And this army, I'm not going to be playing in any official tournaments. I just play at home with friends, and you know, I don't think sizes make very much difference. If you're winning and losing a game because you've got 32mm bases rather than 25mm bases, it's not. I mean, that's just not how I play the game. So that's fine. I think this communicates what it is. I give it hard case as well, so it's, you know, I've up armored it and the rest of it, and such a lovely figure. I don't want to leave it behind when I take my orcs to battle. What else have we got? Okay, we've got a truck back here as well. Let's have a look at the truck. There we are. So the truck, you can see it's a rather less well-armoured, more ramshackle vehicle. This is converted from one of my son's toy fire engines. He's 11 now. He really doesn't play with toy fire engines anymore. More's the pity. Anyway, it meant that he gave me his blessing to convert this to an orc vehicle. As you can see, it's just stuck all over with bits of plasticard, bits of embroidery mesh, a cannon from a Mantic dwarf kit. There we go. And then the wrecking ball. This is a bead. This is some craft chain I got from a charity shop. Bits of old ladder and stuff. I had a really fun afternoon putting this together and then painting it and rusting it up. Using sponges to stipple this white paint on. I love it. Great. And here's a slightly odd thing. This is my counts as a Dakar jet. Will this stay in my army? I don't know. I think I like the model. I'm not sure it's particularly a good fit for this army aesthetically, but you know, it could be a looted Imperial thing. Why not? This is an old Ground Zero Games model. So it's a resin thing that I've added wings to and lots of other bits. I'm not sure you can still get these for a long time. I mean, Ground Zero Games is still going, but they don't do 28mm stuff anymore. So they're really lovely resin 28mm sci-fi vehicles, including this one. For a long time was being sold by a company called Demonscape. They no longer seem to be doing that. It's a shame because these were very cheap. I think this was like £9 or something. And you can see I've added plasticard wings. I've added little tusks to it. I've just painted rivets on, bit of rust. The various weapons, we've got a pen lid, we've got a little tightly packed bundle of cake pop sticks, the sort of chin mounted las thing. What's that? No idea. Again, probably bits of pen, more cake pop sticks. This is a Lego piece. Yeah, I like it. It looks suitably over-armed, as orcs are wont to do. I've gone a bit mad with the mud spatter on there. I'm not sure that's worked particularly well. Anyway, there we go. Aircraft are complicated and sort of unsatisfying to use in 1/40,000 10th edition as far as I can tell. So whether that's going to stay there, I don't really know. Lastly, for this army, I think we've got this thing here. This is... Right, there you go, there's the top of it. This is a Big Ed boss bunker. So I think it's supposed to be the head of a gargant or whatever that's been dismembered, or maybe the whole gargant has sunk into the sand. They've just got the head. And they're using it as a bunker. You can put a couple of squads in there. And you can use it as a firing platform. And then up the top, it's got a loudspeaker, which affects morale and whatever, and orders. And those weird plastic wine goblet things from that game I was telling you about earlier, that's what I've used up here for the loudspeakers, 4 of those. I've got barbecue skewers, I've got the spring, or the wire from a wire-bound notebook. These are from wooden plant labels you can get from pound shops. The head itself, some plastic bit of plumbing pipe, I'm not sure. Just a bit of MDF on the top for the platform. Various bits of cardboard for the face. Bit of florist's wire. This plastic's quite soft, so I could score in panel lines and then just paint the rivets on. And the panel lines would take the dry brush quite nicely. The eyes, you've got 2 different eye weapons, squint and glare, to choose from. So this is the squint, and this obviously is the glare. The glaring eye is just a couple of circular mantic warpath bases, and I think this eye is possibly the best bit of paintwork from the army. I'll be honest. Quite happy with that. And yeah, so that then is the boss bunker. We can put that back. And while I was making this army, I also made lots of bits of terrain which are scattered around here, most of them anyway. Just take you very quickly through some of them. Lots of these bits here they're from a company called Amera. They make plastic vacuum-formed bits and pieces. You can see underneath that's sort of thin plastic. And to take away some of that texture, I've basically added a papier-mâché skin to it. It's just toilet roll and PVA glue with a little bit of sand. This is the old traditional way of depicting corrugated iron. Is just corrugated cardboard, just soaked with a bit of PVA, dry brushed, very effective. I've got quite a few of these weird fungal forests. I've got some over here as well. And after after Easter, you can usually buy from craft shops quite big bags of polystyrene eggs in different sizes. You can often get a big bag with 3 different sizes, and you can put those together in amusing ways and cut the pointy ends off and put them on bases, and make yourself fairly convincing little weird fungus or cacti maybe. I've used these in the past to make the traditional old white dwarf death cactus, whatever they're called, the other green ones with the red spikes. Very simple. Just get these and stick cocktail sticks into them. The ziggurat sort of landing pad here, again, it's an Amera kit. I've added corrugated iron to it and little glyphs and texture, and I've put the H on the top. The weird sort of gateway thing back there is just made from barbecue skewers and foam board, and more of the corrugated cardboard, bits of chain. I tied the skewers together with cable ties, and once those are sprayed black and dry brushed metal and rusted, they sort of look convincingly like massive Orky Jubilee clips or something. What else have we got? Sort of bunker thing back then. Again, an Amira kit with lots of added texture and plant labels, ladders, bits of corrugated iron. And then lastly, yeah, this sort of satellite dish thing. I'm sure anyone who knows anything about satellite dishes would realise this would never work. Doesn't matter with orcs, they've got weird morphic resonance, magic, psychic abilities, so that if they believe something will work, if there's a consensus about it, then it should work. That's what I'm saying with this. But this is made from some sort of plastic basket toy, a roll plug, a cotton thread bobbin cotton reel, the spring from a tiny little notebook, and a plastic picnic bowl. Proper orky stuff. So anyway, yeah, there you go. That then is my orc army. I've played one game of 10th edition 40k with it so far, and it was a lot of fun, a lot of things to remember, and I definitely need more boys. I need lots of boys and more weird boys, I think, because you can do the jump, and the boys have got is it sticky objectives, so they can claim an objective and then they keep that objective even if they move somewhere else, and you can teleport all over the board. Lots of good fun stuff, like the bubble chucker is very random and lots of stuff explodes hilariously. I actually used a command reroll to explode something on purpose. I think it probably did as much damage to my army as it did to my opponent, but that's very orky. That's fine. And this is what's great about orcs as well. They are fun. They're not really about sort of careful tactical deployment. They're about pushing things forward, pressing random buttons, seeing what works, and a very rewarding and fun hobbying opportunity as well to make things with, just be resourceful with what you've got. Find stuff in charity shops, bash it together. Don't worry too much about how it's going to look. And yeah, really good. What's really great about building an orc army in this way is that it makes shopping trips far more interesting, because you can go into any charity shop or any like hardware shop or pound shop, and you can always find something that you can use for an orc army. There we go. Okay, well, thank you very much for what is probably a longer video than I anticipated. I'm hoping to add to this, as I say, more boys, possibly a stomper. Who could resist making a stomper, even if they're not particularly points effective in the game? They would certainly be a lot of fun. Okay, well, thank you again for watching, and yeah, we'll leave it there. Thanks a lot.